Hello, hello, and welcome back to Games My Guy podcast, the esports podcast by fans for fans. My name is Patrick Aches Avery Kenny, and joined, as always, the incomparable, the fresh cut looking man, Ethan Duck Goose Butler. How you doing?
Frankly, I'm feeling fire. I'm feeling free. I feel good. I look good. It's been such a relief these past couple hours of not having the mop of hair on my head.
Yes, you're looking pretty fresh, man. You got a color going. You got some shaved bits of your head. You've got a real esports boy look going on, which I appreciate.
I mean, you're not wrong. I've done this color for since. Admittedly, it was inspired initially by Surefour, but then I happened to look into the league these days. Punch got this look going on. Bren, once he fixes his hair, will usually have this look going on. So it's a theme amongst people, the guys like me, and who love esports, who and also work in it.
Yeah, and I mean, like you're joining a small select group of gentlemen, really.
Saints of the league, I
Yeah,
like to
you
think.
like you're up there in the ranks with Surefour now with that haircut.
Frankly, that's how I felt last night when we were playing. I
Yeah,
won't lie. I
yeah,
felt like I was popping the fuck off. I just felt good. I was hitting the orbs on Zen. I
yeah.
was popping left and right. Had the Moira stats.
We were destroying that gold ELO team. Fuck those
Woo!
guys.
The one guy, they had like a Smurf on their team, and we were like, bye, and
Yeah,
just killed him and won. And he said, "Oh, nice, no talent comp. Yeah, nice loss, idiot."
idiot. Yeah, and I mean, if I were to look at the comp that we were playing, and for everyone at home, we were playing like Winston, Zarya, Reaper, May. It's that's hard. That's hard to pull off. Like that's not a comp
Mhm.
that really works very well.
No,
And we
and
were doing Zen
we
Brig, which is like almost impossible.
we had very minor healing, and we made it work because we're clean boys.
We're men,
We're we're clean men.
clean men.
That sounds worse.
That sounds much worse. I'm gonna stick to clean boys. Actually, I think that's good. But yeah, we had a good set of games last night for ourselves, but last week was a good set of games for some teams in the Overwatch League, and other teams it's a week that they probably wish they could forget. But I think we should start with the dark horse. We'll get to the Defiant game because there was only
Mm-hmm.
one, and it
Yes.
was there's a little story there. But I think you, Ethan, you mentioned before the podcast you wanted to talk a little bit about the Chengdu Hunters and their 2-0
Oh,
weekend. Like you said that to me before we started recording, and I had to go back and look because I was like, "There's no way that I missed that they won both their games," and it turns out they did.
oh, it was wonderful. It was truly wonderful. Like the Hunter boys are just what a hoot to watch. Just sometimes it just doesn't make a lick of sense how it's working.
It never
It just
does.
is,
Yeah,
and you know what, you don't need to know how it works. It defies physics and logic and science. It's just it's for entertainment. It's to make sure Amang is happy because I know he's probably not happy playing anything but Wrecking Ball. And so if you get him on the ball, Jinmu can do whatever he wants, usually Genji. But then just the whole team, man, just popping off. It's really fun, especially since they were considered to be like the shit tier of APAC for most of the season, and they kind of pretty much are.
yeah.
But the magic has finally come
They have
to Chengdu.
found their footing and they took it to Seoul in a 3-2 win. I mean, like that's Seoul is a pretty good team in APAC, but much better than Chengdu Hunters on paper.
Mm-hmm.
So
But they
that was
have
a super surprising win for me.
Oh yeah, they have like profit and stuff. Like how profit alone usually takes these games. But like that game, I remember. I think I stayed up because it started at 4 a.m. where we are, and I was like, I'm gonna watch map one, and then they won map one, so they, what? All right, I'm gonna watch map two. I'm not feeling that tired. Map two, they lost. I was like, well, shit, I'm already deep in. Might as well watch map three, which they won, and then they lost map four, and it was like 5:30 in the morning, and I was begging, please just let me sleep. I'm tired. My eyes hurt. I want to go. I want to fall asleep, Chengdu. I begged them to win quickly, and they did. and a 2-0 on Busan, and they answered my prayers. Amang bless the Chad, the god of Overwatch. He listened, and he hears Patrick. He hears you when
Yeah,
you pray.
yeah, and if you're a good boy, he will grant you your wish, which is to go to sleep.
It's true. He will put you to sleep with
Yeah,
his with like in a good way. Like he sends you off to sleep with happy dreams.
he sends you off. He gives you a kiss goodnight, and then you're asleep.
He
That's
tucks
how
you in.
Chengdu Hunter treats their fans.
Exactly. They're loving. They're sweet.
Yeah.
They have. We just talked about a main all the time. They have a main.
Honestly, if a Mang stopped playing for Hunters, I would have to rethink my whole APAC love story with the Hunters. Like I would
It's
have
true.
to pick a new APAC team, I think.
They're
But
so tied down to the chaos strat that he
yeah,
provides,
yeah,
and so
and
it's just so fun.
it's so fun to watch, and like in like ever since that the regions have been split up into APAC and North America, you see like in North America you see the same comps like over and over and over again, and Chengdu is just this beacon of light sitting in APAC region where they're just like, we're gonna play what we're gonna play, and it doesn't really matter if it's meta. We don't really care about hero pools. We're just gonna play what's been working in scrims or what we've been playing in matchmaking. But what I was gonna say about the Seoul Dynasty game and what you brought up, Profit earlier today, Profit being on Seoul Dynasty, and especially in this meta where it's like if you're a DPS player and you're very, very good and your team enables you, you're actually able to get a lot of stuff done.
Mm-hmm.
So I was really expecting Seoul to kind of pull this one out.
I
Very, very
was
tight.
yeah. I after the reverse sweep against NYXL, when I was doing my predictions, I put Chengdu because I'm never betting against Chengdu again. Essentially, I will always. They're one of the teams. It could happen no matter what. So I'm always going to probably bet the Hunters 9 times out of 10. And so I thought, fuck it. I think they can do this. They beat NYXL. NYXL is better than Seoul. Anything can happen. And in theory, you're right. Like they shouldn't be able to beat Seoul, like especially in the meta without like even though like Jester is really good on Orisa, Jester's also traditionally been very good on Winston. And
Yeah.
so like Jester led dive with like Profit on say the Tracer maybe or something like that should work. Like and their supports aren't like bad either. They have like Toby's pretty good.
Yep.
Slime, they don't really play him. He's just kind of there.
Yeah, he's more of a bench boy
He
right
shouldn't
now.
be. Maybe he would start on pretty much any other team he chose to go to, but he went to Seoul. Probably he wanted to stay in Korea. Maybe I don't know. He liked the team atmosphere, the legacy of the team. But they're not a bad team. I don't think Seoul's a bad team. I just don't think something is wrong with it. Like they're not playing together as they should.
Yeah. It seems like they kind of have a bit of a identity crisis right now because I'm just looking at the lineup right now from the Dynasty side. Like you have Michelle, Jester, Toby, Prophet, like team like players that have been on really high caliber teams,
Mm-hmm.
and like Toby who's been hanging out with the Dynasty for a very, very long time, and then you have stuff like Creative coming in. It's a team that a lot like Toronto Defiant, where they have a lot of really great pieces, or they have pieces that have experience in the Overwatch League, but they just don't seem to have an identity as a team, and there's just not that drive, that push that a lot of the teams that who lack in the skill department make up for in having like a strong team fight idea or having great comms in game.
I think this is something that I was worried about when they picked up like half of the London Spitfire, is because this is kind of like the same issues London Spitfire had last year. They seemed to struggle a lot with just finding themselves in game. Like they would, I can't remember what the issues were, but just it
Yeah.
was like there was issues
Mm-hmm.
with the London Spitfire. So when you took almost all of that team and plugged them into a starting lineup once again, like you grabbed Bedosin, Gesture, Prophet, and like all these guys came together over, and so that's half your starting lineup almost.
Yeah.
Actually, that is starting lineup to be quite honest. It's Prophet, Gesture, Bedosin usually start, and so like there's clearly a mentality issue with these players in the game.
Yeah.
Like because it should be working better than it is. Like Jester maybe has issues on Reinhardt, but when he's not playing Reinhardt, he's always looked pretty good. And so
Yeah.
there's something missing. Whereas other teams are just seems to be, especially in the APAC region, are finding ways, even when they incorporate a new player, of making that work in their identity pretty quickly. Like you got NYXL's worked well with Hacksaw. Um, the Spark's a bit more of a mixed bag, but on the whole, they've had some good times with like Architect and QOQ. But I don't know, like other than like, and then just to be quite honest, this weekend was bonkers with APAC. Like shit was just
Yeah.
happening all over the place. Like the games that were super close that shouldn't have been super close. Sweeps happened, surprising sweeps. Like the Charge got swept. So it was just a wacky APAC weekend. Like APAC's a great region. I think I love APAC and NA equally because they both give me different types of experiences. And I think
Yeah.
it's wonderful that they exist together.
I agree. I agree. And like with the region separated, it's so hard to see how the North American teams match up. But I mean, we're gonna see that pretty soon, as soon as like the championships come around, and once
Oh, yes.
all those things start to happen, that'll be really, really exciting. But yeah, you were mentioning a lot of like 3-2s. Like we had the Shanghai Dragons win over London Spitfire, which was like a nice 3-2 win.
That was
But
almost a reverse sweep too, to be
yeah,
honest.
yeah. And speaking of reverse sweeps that happened or maybe never have happened, I kind of wanted to talk about the Boston Dallas game a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, not to
There it is.
bring up. Ethan just showed his jersey to the camera.
And it's Boston today.
A nice Boston one, but it's not to be like, oh, look at Dallas with the 3-1 win. I would argue that was almost a reverse sweep. The Nubis map that Boston lost was so close, and it came in game 4. It was one of those games that Boston knew what their play style was, and Color Hex, to his credit, was playing super well on the Genji.
Mm-hmm.
But Dallas kind of figured out what they needed to do to make him not as effective. And a part of that was putting note on the Diva, just spreading out their defense and making their offenses have different attack points, and making crossfires and making it difficult for Color Hex to get a lot of value out of his dashes and his nano blades. So, I mean, it was close. It was very, very close to being a reverse sweep, in my opinion.
It was, yeah. Like I was surprised that I got to that point because look, I'm a diehard Boston fan, and I like to believe they can do
What?
anything.
You are?
I know I hide it well. I hide it extremely well,
Mm.
but sometimes it slips out, and like right now, and yeah, they like the first 2 maps of that game were not good. But they got rolled, especially oh my goodness, Nubani. But
Numbani is one of those weird maps, man. Like
anything that
it's
happened on
either a
that map.
3-0 or it goes to like rounds 20, and like
And you just want it to be over.
Yeah.
You don't care who wins. You just want it to be over. But no, yeah, they came back from, for example, the Nubis. I've been harder on Color Hits' Genji recently, mostly when he got kind of outplayed by Super. But I think he's looked pretty. Even in these 2 games they played this weekend, I was more impressed by how well he was doing individually. Because yeah, he looked pretty good. Like he was hitting some good dashes. Like his blades looked better. He was deflecting things well, simple things. But like I was happy to see that improvement. Like Punch looked really good. Punch always looked good, to be honest. I have no issues with Punch as a player. But I think, yeah, they're, oh my goodness, like what a backbreaker that was. What a spirit crusher.
Yeah.
How to come so close, like yeah, they were like they're so close to tying, like to winning Havana and taking it to that map. Oh my goodness! And Boston team is a team that often thrives on momentum if they ever get it. And so if they had the momentum going into it, Busan, like Dallas is the opposite. They like crumbled without momentum. It seems. Well, not a crumble. Like they won this game,
Yeah.
but they struggle at times. And you're right. Like Note came in and saved a lot of things because Note's really good.
Totally.
Like, we love Note here at the podcast. He's our sweet Canadian boy. He's one of our princes. We enjoy him immensely.
We have many princes, and he is but one of them.
He is one of our favorite princes.
Well, we got to show some love to the Canadian boys who are doing their
best.
We
do. Like, we love our Notes.
We love our Notes.
Wonderful man. We love Note.
Yeah, it's
we'll
just
say that one more time.
Yeah, I mean, but yeah, like I totally agree. I think Boston, if they had won the Havana map to bring it to the game 5, that's a lot of momentum. 2 games in a row after you're down 2-0, like that's a you're ready for that game 5 if you're
feeling
Boston
yourself.
there. Yeah, exactly. So I mean that was kind of exciting to see. I mean, it's a little bit of an improvement, a little bit of a better mental performance of
Yes.
Boston, you know what I mean? Like they didn't full out lose completely, and they had a lot
Yeah.
of fight in them.
Oh yeah, no, they took 2 maps this weekend, which compared to last weekend is 2 more than they took. So like,
is
if my math is
200%
right,
better.
this could help them down the line. It's not going. I mean, for like maybe this tournament, I don't think I don't think they can make this tournament. To be quite honest, because they don't play this weekend,
Right.
this coming weekend. I mean, and so their record going into this tournament is like 0-4, I think 0-3, and so there's zero chance of they making this tournament unless another team also does that, which Vancouver might. If Vancouver loses to Toronto this weekend, um, like they'll battle Boston, I believe, for the finals for the slot if that's how it works again. I'm not sure
Right.
if that's how exactly it's going to go down, but that's how it's gone in the past. So like last time with the Justice and with Boston, to be honest, it was
Yeah.
Boston again. But yeah, so it could all come down to how well the Titans play against Toronto this weekend, because Toronto's already got a win, so Toronto's already ahead of anyone else. The Toronto's in,
Yeah.
so that's how it goes.
So we're excited for that.
I'm giving myself hope. I'm trying to stumble. I Michael Scott sometimes. Sometimes I just begin a sentence, and I try and find it along the way. And I don't know if I succeeded there, but I was trying to give myself hope.
Hey, you gotta have some hope. You gotta have some hope. I mean, when Toronto's playing okay, that's hopeful enough. But
me and you. Anytime Toronto does, if they take a point, we're like, yo, we got this.
We got.
It's coming.
We're
If they
gonna win
take
it
a
all.
fight,
Yeah,
it's coming.
but I think that brings us to the Toronto Philadelphia game. Unfortunately,
Yes.
we're here. But I wanted to start the conversation about the Toronto Defiant game by going back to the Philadelphia and Gladiators game that they played the day before on the 25th. So I looked at the scoreboard going into the Toronto Philly game on the 26th, and I saw that the Philly looked like they struggled against Gladiators just based on the score line, the 3-2. I didn't have
They
a
did.
chance to.
That was. I did predictions again, and
Mhm.
this is one. I think I'm taking the risk here. I chose the Gladiators to win this game, and after the first map, I was like, "Holy shit, am I right?" And then did this happen? Like every day this weekend, I got 3 games wrong, one each day. So I could not get a perfect day of predictions to save my life this weekend. Like I thought as well, Houston was going to bag me that perfect day. They did not. But yeah, the Gladiators, they look so good, to be honest. Like Kevster is a beast on that Genji. Like holy crap, no one expected Kevster. Well, they knew he could play it well, but no one expected him to be this good on Genji in the Overwatch League, and
Yeah.
he was destroying.
Yeah, and like Gladiators showed up this weekend, not like 100%, of course, but the Gladiators had been kind of challenged in the weeks past. Like they haven't been looking as good as a lot of people have put them, but they gave Fusion a run for their money. It was a really, really close set. Games were going back and forth, and it was really exciting to see. But the reason I wanted to bring this game up going into the Toronto Defiant game was that it looked like Fusion were not having a good weekend. Just based on the track record that the Gladiators have, and knowing that Philadelphia Fusion is a top 3 team in NA, I was very excited. I was encouraged by that scoreline, seeing the 3-2 going into our game. And then the Toronto Defiant game happened, and we get we get smoked.
It seemed, honestly, at that first map, I won't lie, I had a bit of hope going forward, to be honest, because it was a 2-1. Like it wasn't a complete thrashing. I think parts of it were.
Yeah.
But there was hope. Like you thought, okay, wow, this could be interesting. All right, boys, just map 1, no big deal.
Yeah.
This happens to us. We sometimes lose map 1 a lot.
Yeah, we
it up.
We can't win map 1s. It's not our thing.
It's just our warm up. Don't even worry about it. But oh god, then Nubani happened and just the spirit was broken.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
body was willing, but the spirit was not.
Yeah, that was another case of Numbani being a map you just want to see done. You don't want to watch
Yeah,
anymore. Yeah, it was
just
tough.
make it
And
stop.
when like looking at the comp that Toronto was running, I mean, Agilities was on the Genji, of course, but they we were running the Genji with stuff like we had like Lucio out at one point, and we had Moira at one point as well. Just
Mhm.
map specific choices. But Philadelphia looked really, really prepared for what
Yeah.
Toronto was going to throw at them. I mean, they knew that our big right hook, if we were boxing, our big right hook is Genji Blade. And
Yep.
as soon as any time that Agilities was trying to get a Genji Blade going, never worked out. Like he would get maybe one or two slashes through, miss a dash, or they would prevent him from getting into the team fight.
Yeah, because they had, well, their secret weapons. That's not so secret. Funny Astro just comes in. He's the reason. One of the big reasons they beat the Gladiators, the fusion. And so Funny Astro is I think Cruz is good, but just Funny Astro is arguably one of the top like three Lucios in the league. I would say. Yeah, I'd say the top three Lucios in the league are probably like Lee J Don on the Dragons. We got FD. Yep, I'll
Say
let
it.
you say it.
Say
Okay,
it.
I'll say yeah. Okay, fine. Patrick, if you must force my hand, it's the sweet French boy, FD God.
FD God, the bulldog of the French
Well,
team.
ooh. But and then like Funny Astro will be some of the top three. Maybe you could argue for Moth as well.
Yeah.
But
Although Moth
those
hasn't been getting played too much, has he?
he's gonna get some playtime this week. I can tell you that much.
Hopefully.
No, because Violet's suspended for a game because of toxic
Oh.
behavior. He was fined by the shot and suspended for the Houston game, which would be concerning for the shot if they didn't already have Twilight and Moth on the roster and Rascal who can play the Baptiste and Bridge.
Yeah.
So this
It
really does.
feels
This almost doesn't hurt the shot at all.
it feels like they've prepared for this. You know what I mean?
They may have had a contingency plan in place.
Yeah, like when I said it feels like the Shocker just Iron Man looking through all of their suits of armor. I feel like they're like, oh, this one I can't use this one. Okay, I'll just get this one with the bazookas, and I'll use that one.
Well, we can't use the Mark V. Well, we'll use the Mark 4.5 then.
Yeah,
It's okay. We'll throw that out there. It's all right. As we assume this is how Krusty speaks.
yeah. That must be how he talks to his players for
He
sure.
talks vaguely French Canadian. Oh no! Wait, was
I
that new?
I will say I was very excited. I was hopeful that we were going to make it to map 4 simply
Mhm.
because Route 66 if we were going to run Sombra Genji on any map, that's the map to run it on. Like if we were going to commit with the Surefour Agilities lineup and we wanted them on their best players, I think Route 66 would have been a good map for us. But
It
we
would
played,
also not hurt to try the Doomfist a bit
of course.
because agility. It's a wacky thing to say, but Doomfist can soft counter Genji a bit,
Yeah.
and also agility is really good on Doomfist, and the Hat Fist combo is ruthless. And you know who seems to struggle against Hat Fist, especially at the Gauntlet last year in the contenders? Funny Astro, that British bastard.
Who'd have thunk it?
Doha made his life hell. Surefour just hacked the bitch.
Yeah. So like that would have been sick. They played a lot of really claustrophobic maps too. Now that I'm like looking at the map list and remembering, like Numbani's pretty tight, Nepal's super tight, Volsky Industries is super tight. Like it's
Yeah.
just it's like it's not great play for Genji, but I also feel like if they didn't play Genji, we would be on here right now complaining that they didn't play Genji. You know what I mean?
Probably, yeah. Just like you could have tried running a double hit scan, I suppose. Like if Surefour and Logic's in there, or because Zik is still on the roster. I'm not sure. Maybe you want to throw him a bone. I know we were begging for him to be out of the roster, and then we want Agilities. But if something's not working, if Agilities maybe having a bad game, maybe give him a break on map. Like if map 1 goes brutally bad, or map 2, sit him down. The worst that can happen. Yeah, you're gonna lose the game, but you may lose the game anyway. So you might as well give him a break. And so you have the options. Like Genji, will he be forever meta? Probably not. He'll be for a while. Even with his nerfs, he's not. He's still like he'll take a hit, but I think he'll be played more map specific. But he'll still be played quite frequently by teams like Paris and maybe probably Toronto. And so I think there's
Yeah.
something you can do, but just have an option. Like that's one of the things I complain with the Titans about right now is that they're so stubborn right now for some reason because they keep running the Genji, but the Genji's
Yeah.
not working. Why not try something else just for a fight? Even just like, it doesn't like just some it's not working. And so when teams need to be, I know they have set strategies in place, and of course I'm just a pleb. I don't know things. But like in my eyes, if something's not working, even if you're a low ranking game, I know this is Overwatch League, which is different. If something's not working, the team still says, "All right, should we swap something to try this out?" I'm not obviously this is I am not qualified to speak on this, but like in my head, fuck it, just
Yeah.
try it. If it doesn't work, go back to your shit.
It's true. It's true. And Toronto took that to heart, especially when the Genji meta was coming around. The other thing I was going to point out about this game was like God love Kariv. I love Kariv.
He's a sweet boy.
He's our boy. He's a great boy. I would have loved to see him on Zen. He didn't play Zen this entire set.
Moira,
and
right?
he was on Moira or he was on I don't know, just not Zen. But and Alarm was on Zen for the first two maps. Like it was
And
just
Alarm came to fucking play.
yes, he
That
did.
game. Holy
Yeah,
hell.
yeah,
He soloed Nubani, it seemed at one point. He just was like sniping
yeah,
left and right. The discords were on point. You couldn't touch him. Even if you got close to him, he just one clipped you.
yeah. So it was. I would have liked to see the mirror. I guess I would have treated. I would have. That's such a.
We're the best.
Yeah, yeah. Hindsight's 2020, of course, but I would have liked to see the mirror matchup with Alarm and Kriv. I thought that would be, you should treat it like a Widow matchup. Like the Discord orb is really, really important and it's impactful. And if your team is getting discorded, it would help to also be discording the other team. So that's my only thing that I thought was kind of interesting. But it's very clear that Toronto has a plan that they're working on. And it's clear that they are trying things that they feel very, very comfortable with. Is this because of the new coach that they brought in? Who knows? But
he is their strategist, so it
yeah,
could be they're in a bit of an experimental phase right now.
yeah,
Cruz was brought in not like crazy. He was brought in a couple months ago now, for sure. But Cruz hasn't been with the team all season. Numlot's been with the team even less. The agility's coming back to the lineup primarily for the Genji, and so they're having to find themselves again. Blue. But then but they're also they're trying to find what works for them and some different looks they can run because you can't run the Genji alone forever. Because as you saw, the top teams will be able to figure you out and deal with it. The top teams, the only way you're going to beat a top team is by them be willing to adapt and survive. Like the top teams will figure you out. It's going to happen.
Yeah, it's true. And it didn't seem like Fusion had to make a bunch of different, like it seemed like their game plan wasn't altered at all by them knowing that their win condition was let's mess up agilities whenever he tries to dash in. It literally looked like they just told Poco, hey, your job today is to rock agilities every time you see him. And Poco went, and then he just did it.
They put his sunglasses in, spread eagle, and laid back.
And he just did it. And he hit him every single time. It was
even when Fury came into play at one point too, I believe.
He did, and yes.
So Fury did the same. Like they have two of the best op tanks in the lead on one team, which is kind of ridiculous. And
that's what I mean. Yeah. If you're trying to find and your plan is we're gonna do this, and the Shock Philadelphia Fusion, they can trade players, they can just substitute players, and their plan is the same. Like that means you don't have a well-diverse attack plan as Toronto Defiant.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, that's an opportunity missed. But also, I mean, Philadelphia Fusion, I assumed was going to win this game.
We did say that. We did say it was going to be an uphill battle. We think we gave it 3-1. You said 3-0, I believe.
I did.
I said 3-1 because I hate to predict a 3-0. But it was looking like a 3-0 just because on paper, and going off their record, they're performing better than Toronto has been all season.
Yeah.
Toronto looks good sometimes, but Toronto can't seem to beat like the big guy, the big guns in the league. They'll beat who they should beat mostly.
Yeah. And even then, sometimes sometimes we
That's
get a
pretty
few
close.
hiccups.
Like they almost lost. I remember for the melee against the Titans. Like,
Yeah.
that was the Titans. Like that was Shockwave's first game with the team. Like he joined like that day, and
Wow.
like Shockwave popped the fuck off. And so
Wow.
yeah, there's just there's some stuff to figure out. Maybe they need to solidify things behind the scenes, establish I think a firm starting roster. Like I love the I love to seeing Beast at playtime. Don't even run. I love seeing Nunlock at playtime, but most of the best teams have like a general starting six they run with. Like the Shock will sometimes swap Super in for various things, like his Rhine. Even now,
Genji.
I've seen Smurf play Rhine, so or Genji, yeah.
Yeah.
And now you were like Super played Zen at one point in season one. Everyone's like, oh, is the Super Zen coming back? I don't know. But like most teams have like a standard six that they run with, and then maybe they'll sub people in for map specific things. But Toronto needs to figure out. Also, they just need to figure out the style of game they want to play because sometimes their slower paced counter dive won't work. And so they
Yeah.
need to have an alternate game identity that they can roll with. You need to be able to be hyper aggressive when needed.
Yeah. And that was something that the casters were saying about Toronto Defiant, just how slow and methodical their play is.
Mm-hmm.
Will that stand up against a team like, oh, I don't know, the Spark or Chengdu Hunters? No, it will
Oh my
not.
goodness gracious me! The
They
Chengdu Hunters
will,
again.
they will, they are gonna go at 160 miles per hour into Kareev's face. So,
Oh my goodness.
like, it's a play style that's sometimes it's too slow, and you lose map and momentum based off of those kind of decisions.
Yeah,
Yeah,
They just need to. There's some. They have the pieces to be at least an upper middle team, at minimum. They just need to figure it out. I want them to do it. I think they can. This weekend coming up, they play the Vancouver Titans, who have been. You think the Toronto has been struggling. Vancouver's been struggling even way worse. They got beat in record-setting fashion against by the San Francisco Shock, who subbed in Super for Tayo on the last map, and they still set a record with Super on Denji. And so, yeah, I think
which
this should be
yeah,
a game the Toronto should win. I'm a Titans fan. I write about the Titans, but objectively speaking, this should be a game Toronto should win pretty handedly, especially if there's Genji being played. Genji has been the Titans' biggest weakness because, no offense to Dalton, Dalton's really freaking good, but he's not a natural Genji player. He didn't play Genji really a lot coming up in contenders. He probably has played a bit, but he's primarily like Tracer, Widow, those hit stand characters,
yeah.
which unfortunately so is Shockwave. And unfortunately so is Suna. So like all the DPS they signed are not primarily projectile flex DPS guys. They're hit stand. They do that the shooty shoots.
Yeah,
So
they feel like Toronto Defiant season 1 with like
yes,
Ivy.
yeah, they should be. This should be a game they win. If Vancouver wins this game, I don't want to say I'm going to be surprised, but it would be an upset in my eyes if Vancouver beats the Defiant this weekend.
Yeah.
So this should be the game that gets them to 2 wins going into the tournament. And there's no hero bans, so they can play the Orisa again, and that can give Achilles more ammo for his Genji.
Yeah, that's the thing I was going to mention about this week coming up. Without the hero bans, every team is able to play the comp that they feel most comfortable about. Every team is able to play mirrors in any situation. And Toronto Genji comp versus Vancouver Genji comp, Toronto wins that. I think that's not debated at
They
all.
should, yeah, they should, because Agilities is a great Genji player on most of the time, and so he should be able to clap Dalton around.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I'm predicting a 3-0 personally.
Of course, I know. Of
I'm
course,
predicting a
you're
3-0 for Toronto
yes.
Defiant.
I think I was going with a 3-1 with the chance of an upset if Vancouver tries something a little different. Like if they stop running the Genji. Yeah, I hate to say that because you have to run Genji's objectively part of one of the strongest comps right now. But if it's clearly not working for you, you have to try something else. My suggestion was to put Shockwave back on the Echo and get Dalton on like the Tracer, just to try something, just to something like that, just because like Echo is another high mobility character with possibly very impactful ultimate. You want Genji as well? You can get a Genji if you, but it's just it might not work, but it's something to try. Or just go back to the double hit stand just for the Vancouver Titans. That's one of their best options to beating Toronto, because I don't see, like you said, them beating them in a Genji mirror.
Yeah, they shouldn't. Their plan should not be to mirror. I think. I would agree with you. I think they should put Shockwave back on Echo. He looked really, really strong on it. Mm-hmm. He kind of made a name for himself. He put a little blip on the radar for himself. So I think if Vancouver plays to their strengths, they'll do okay. But I also think there's no way they beat Toronto right now. Currently, as the team that they are, I don't think they beat Toronto. But
I don't think so either.
I could eat crow when the game, if they lose, I will gladly eat crow. I will gladly.
Yeah, it's gonna be bonkers if they do it, because it's the Canada Cup, it's the battle for Canada.
Yeah,
someone's got to wear that crown, and Toronto has won every time they face Vancouver.
Yeah, and Toronto looks good in crowns.
They do.
Yeah.
They love it. They want it back, and so they're going to fight hard in this game, because I'm pretty sure this is Toronto's only game this weekend. So having only one game to prepare for as well really helps. And so I think they should win. Will they? Who knows? We don't. We're just a couple of doofuses who would love to talk about the Overwatch.
Yeah, we're like every fan. We just have microphones.
Yeah, we just put it to the podcast.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that brings us to the end of our podcast episode. Do you have is there any other games that you're excited for, or any last thoughts from Doc Goose?
This weekend is going to be interesting, I think. My number one game, obviously, is Toronto-Vancouver, but I'm curious to see as well how the Valiant perform this weekend, to be quite honest.
Yeah, the Valiant have 2 games this weekend coming up.
They play Houston and Philly. And so Valiant's another team that has some issues with Genji. Like, they're not bad at Genji, actually. Like, KFS's pretty solid, but he's a solid Genji. He's not like Sparkle or EQO or we'll say Tuba. And so, I love to say his name backwards. And so that's the games I'm looking forward to. I want to see if the teams that the Valiant or the Gladiators can perform this weekend.
Yeah. Well, we will have to see. We will have to all wait and see what happens.
Damn right.
But thank you so much for listening to our podcast. If you liked it, please follow us on Spotify. We also are on Twitter, which is curated by the lovely, ever-talented Ethan Doc Goose Butler, and that is @GamesMyGuy. If you like the podcast and you wish you could see our ugly faces, please come over to our YouTube channel, where we post all of our episodes as YouTube videos.
We're looking for that record-breaking 10 views, so someone could really come by and spam it.
Yeah, if you could be our savior and liven up our YouTube presence, that would be very, very nice. But you can also email us, which is at gamesmyguypodcast@gmail.com. If you want to be on the podcast or you have any thoughts, please give us an email. And that is everything. That is everything. So I had to think about that for a hot second. But thank you so much for listening to the podcast, and we will see you next week.